I'll call the meeting to order. Roll call. Cassandra, please.
Hathaway.
Here.
LaSchultz.
Here.
Burns.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Here.
Chartrand.
Here.
Moorhan. Here. Halzer.
Here.
Osborne.
Here.
King.
Here.
Dahlhoff.
Here. Please stand for the invocation and the pledge to the flag. As we proceed down this road of uncharted territory, please provide us with the insight to keep Lewis County safe and continue on with a low positive COVID response rate, which we have been fortunate to receive to date. Amen.
Amen.
This flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The 9/1/2020 board meeting minutes have been distributed, and if there are no amendments, they will stand approved. Report of the Finance and Rules Committee per Rule 6.
The Finance and Rules Committee has met and they recommend to waive rules to act upon late resolutions.
Any motion? Jerry, second by Ron. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Privilege of the floor. First, we have a public hearing on local law intro number 7-2020, a local law to authorize overriding the tax levy limit established by General Municipal Law 3-C, otherwise known as the 2% tax cap for the Lewis County 2021 budget. Is there anyone here who would like to, for the privilege of the floor, to speak on the tax law, or the overriding of the tax law? If not, we'll leave that open for half an hour in case someone else comes in. General privilege of the floor. The sheriff is here. He'd like to make a few comments. Sheriff, would you please come forward?
I'll stay right back there so that way safe distance, everybody.
Okay.
Just to bring up an update off the Sheriff's Office, we haven't had a chance to speak in a while or anything. Just want to let you know that throughout the time during the COVID virus, it's a situation that we all handled very well together. That up at the Sheriff's Office, we had 0 cases. Inside the jail, due to their due diligence of the men and women in there that work hard every day and put themselves at risk for this whole virus situation as well. They couldn't work from home. They still did their job at the jail. And we had 0 cases in there as well. On the patrol side, same thing. We had 0 cases on the patrol side. Nobody got ill. And also within our own office, amongst the administration and the staff there, nobody got ill through our preventions that we did. So I just want to congratulate our men and women at the office up there and tell them that greatly appreciative by our community and by the sheriff that they did all that without putting anybody else in harm's way and sacrificing sometimes going home to their family with a chance of taking the virus back to their houses. And that didn't occur. So I just want to tell them we thank them very much and hope to continue to include their safety with that. That's what I want to say. And the legislators and everybody appreciates what they did out there for us. And thank you very much.
Any questions for the sheriff? No. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. Anyone else like privilege of the floor for any other topics? If not, we'll move on to presentation of petitions, communications, and notices.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The following resolution was received from Greene County. A resolution opposing New York State Assembly Bill A5630-A and New York State Senate Bill S3923A relating to reforming the statutory, short form, and other powers of attorney for purposes of financial and estate planning, and to repeal certain provisions of such law relating to statutory gift riders. The The following resolution was received from Steuben County, a resolution urging the New York State Legislature to terminate the emergency declaration established to address the COVID-19 pandemic. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Reports of county officers and departments.
Legislators received copies of the Treasurer's September report and third quarter bed tax report, the September Highway and Solid Waste Department's audit reports, and minutes of the September Youth Bureau Advisory Board meeting. Brian Mooney submitted the August and September Sealer of Weights and Measures activity reports, which have been placed on file with the clerk of the board.
Thank you. Moving on to reports of standing committees. Tom, would you like to start with finance and rules?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a motion to authorize Information and Technology Director Connor Barlosi to send out an RFP for Lewis County Government Phone Services.
Make that motion, Tom.
Yep.
Second by Ron. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And that's all I have at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Tom? Thank you, Tom. We'll move on to Jerry with General Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only thing we have a few resolutions in the packets, and if people have questions as they come up, we'll be glad to try to get answers for them. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Questions for Jerry? Thank you, Jerry. Randy, Health and Human Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. While I'm still here, I'll be here for at least one more meeting based upon everything being slowed down for COVID. And speaking of COVID, I just want to thank everybody in the county, along with the Sheriff's Department and his staff, to just to show our appreciation as to how much you folks mean to us with regards to keeping the COVID under control and putting yourselves out there every day. And a lot of us have no real reason to understand what you're doing every day. So with that being said, I thank all the county employees who are essential to everybody else in the county. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Question for Randy. Thank you, Randy. Dick, board's representative on the hospital board.
Just a couple of quick things, Chairman. We have 2 employees of the month to recognize. First one is Stephanie Kirkbride, CNA, works in the nursing home, does a wonderful job. She was nominated by her peers for the month of August. And for the month of September, Lori Peters, senior keyboard specialist, for the month of September. If you see these folks around at the hospital, please congratulate them and thank them for their hard work. Under the finances, there was a gain of $24,683 versus a budgeted gain of $115,049 for the month of August. Our year-to-date surplus is $1,578,045 versus a budgeted surplus of $461,766. We had a resignation. Mr. Steve Fuller, board member, effective October 1st, resigned. Conflicts with work, personal reasons. That's all I have, barring any questions.
Any questions for Dick? Thank you, Dick. County manager report, Brian.
You took away my mic.
Reason for that.
Take the hint. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few notes just to provide an update. The 2021 budget, Eric and I have been diligently working on that. We are pretty much locked in for what we're going to present to you guys at the budget workshop, which will be at our October 20th committee meetings. So we'll go through department by department like we have the last few years and allow the board an opportunity for some input before we submit the final tentative budget, which will be delivered to the board at the November BOL meeting. We had a kickoff meeting today with ECC and Development Authority of the North Country for our broadband inventory initiative. We transferred some money last month and signed a contract with the Development Authority to take an inventory of all the broadband and internet access availability in Lewis County
And that's step one. And then step two of that process is they're going to do a market survey where they contact people in Lewis County and ask them questions about, the current service they have, what type of service they would like to have. They'll talk about some price points, how much are you willing to pay for high-speed internet, those types of things. And the final product, a complete inventory of the physical infrastructure along with a market survey of our residents, will be done and delivered to the board in mid-February. And what's exciting about that is having that information will really help us go after grants and maybe even, decide if we want to make some investments ourselves or try to recruit, some other broadband providers based on the market survey, and really try to push this initiative to further our broadband and high-speed internet infrastructure in Lewis County. So a good investment, that's off to a good start, and I'll keep you guys updated until we get the final report in February. Beyond that, I have been kind of providing a month-by-month update of the situation in Albany with the fiscal deficit that they're facing. There is really no update today. The governor had 3 opportunities in 2020 to balance that budget. They were at the end of April, the end of July, and the end of September. Well, all 3 have gone by and there was no big announcement about what's being cut and what's being done to balance the budget. So really no new information for municipalities, school districts across the state that are looking to, understand what 2021 holds. The state really hasn't made any announcements about how they're handling 2020. So interesting time to try to budget into 2021, but I think what we've put together and we'll share with you guys in a couple weeks is about as good a plan as you can have in a year where so many things are up in the air. So we'll have some more discussions about that on the 20th. That's my report. Thanks.
When is ECC going to start the survey?
They, which part of the survey? The infrastructure part, they've already started. So they'll be driving down roads, every road in Lewis County, and taking a physical inventory of the internet that's available in that area. The market survey, the market survey, I believe, will start in November. So they're finalizing the questions and the strategy and all that. Yeah.
On that, are they going to list as they go through them who owns what infrastructure?
Yep.
Because there seems to be people traveling over each other and nobody knows who they need to talk to get on it once it comes up. Right
Yes,
now.
part of what the physical infrastructure inventory will match the market survey because we're going to ask people if they wouldn't mind providing their address. And based on that, we'll be able to pinpoint where they are. And it's interesting to cross-reference that data to what they already have available. So a lot of what we're hearing kind of anecdotally in Lewis County is that people have access to internet. It's not fast enough to justify the cost, or the quality isn't good enough for the cost. So, there are parts that have internet, but there's people that are not hooked onto that internet because they don't feel it's a good enough value. So that's where you can maybe try to attract a different provider, a different cost structure. You can go to the internet provider and say, here's the market landscape in Lewis County. Maybe could you find a way to adjust your cost structure? Maybe you might be able to get some more customers. So it's kind of a comprehensive look at the infrastructure and the survey respondents, where they live and what's available to them right now.
Thank you.
That's a good thing to hear because some people are signing up for a particular company out of desperation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't like the cost, but they don't have a choice.
Yeah, you're right, Phil. I mean, more options would be a good thing. If the company, if Time Warner's the one making the investment or Frontier's the one making the investment, then they're the only option you have. That's one of the good things about the Development Authority or maybe a public grant. When we make the investment, then we can attract multiple providers off that line. So that's where it is important that there is a public aspect of the investment because it gives people options. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Ryan? Okay.
Ryan, for our committee meeting and that budget, you're going to have we talked once before. Are you gonna be able to get us something a couple days ahead that we can read and look through a little bit?
Probably not for the committee meeting because we'll just be doing the PowerPoint basics, but I'll give you something to walk away with at the committee meeting. I won't be ready to give it to you before then. Then the tentative budget for certain, the final tentative you'll have November 5th. And then from there, you guys can make any changes at all that you want to make. The point of the workshop is to try to kind of give you an update of where we're at, what we're looking for, and then really get some feedback on the tax rate. So we've typically spent the most time on, kind of here's the department by department operations, here's how we've made things balanced. What's your comfort level? What do you guys want to take? Because that'll affect what we put in the tentative budget. Because I don't like to put a tentative budget out there that is going to upset half the board, right? We want to kind of have a comfort level that everyone kind of knows what's coming in the final tentative budget.
Okay,
So,
thanks for the clarity.
yep.
Anything else for Ryan? Now we'll move on to County Treasury report here.
Thank you. I've provided everyone a one-page summary of key financial information as of September 30th. I won't go through any of the numbers on there, but if you have any questions based on what you're looking at, I'll do my best to answer. One note, I think our expenses for this year definitely seem to be tracking below budget. I'm going to take a look at that in a little bit more detail, and I'll try and give you some more feedback on that over the next month. So that's a good sign, obviously. A couple other brief notes. Our sales tax collections you can see on there. I would update you as of today. We have received some preliminary information from New York State for payment we will receive tomorrow. So that payment is going to be about 13% over where it was last year. So that's obviously good news also. I think that's going to put us basically above last year as for year to date after that payment is received tomorrow. So tracking very well considering the situation, and hopefully that will continue for the next couple of months. Two other brief notes. As you can see under other information, our tax auction is finally got a date on the calendar, November 5th. It will be a completely online auction. Bidding to start on November 2nd, and then the closing of the bidding on November 5th. So we're definitely looking forward to that. Moving ahead, the properties are listed on our auctioneer's website, and there'll be more advertisement of that over the next few weeks. And the 3+1 cash management review that you approved, and we kicked off that contract about a month ago, that has been moving forward. It took a little while to get the company access to all of our bank accounts, but that's been accomplished, and they're working on their analysis now, and we have a phone call scheduled with them on Thursday for some initial feedback. That's all I've got for right now.
Yeah, Eric, the tax auction, is that just vacant properties?
Yes, what we were required to do, given COVID and the governor's executive orders this year, is we could not auction any occupied properties.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Can I just clarify that a little bit further too? It's vacant or improved properties that are abandoned, where we had to show that there's been no activity there, nobody living there. So there are some that have some buildings on them, but they've clearly been abandoned for quite some time.
Thank you.
And Eric, you went back to the sales tax collection. I don't see us the month by month spread, so have you decided to change it back to this format again?
I've just given you a slightly different picture every month. I think I provided you the month by month last month. If you'd like to see that detail, I can do that every month.
I'd like to see that detail every month because I track the month to month between the years.
Yep, will do.
To see what goes on.
Any other questions for Eric? Jerry, our hospital CEO is in the audience. I sort of skimmed over you on a couple privilege of the floor. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to bring up.
A couple of things, perhaps. We are in our budget building process as well, and we're not quite as where Ryan is and where Eric is in their process. But by week's end, we will have achieved our targets. We're close, and we will, starting in a couple of weeks, begin the review process with our board. So feeling optimistic that we'll meet our target. And it's worth mentioning that Ryan, Ashley, and I, and Dr. Sean Harney, our the Chief Medical Officer for our employee practices, have been working with the schools as part of their opening plan, but most recently have really focused on providing rapid testing for students and faculty who the school nurses feel are showing symptoms of COVID. So last Thursday or Friday, we received 2 more analyzers through our relationship with the executive branch, and 264 tests. So we met with the superintendents yesterday to develop a process so that for those students and faculty they're concerned with, we can have a rapid test done. And the update from our lab director for the unit we purchased in the spring, we are expecting rapid tests for those this month. So our goal is to be able to test those individuals rapidly who need to be tested. So those would include students, faculty and staff of the schools, preoperative patients, individuals in the emergency department, individuals admitted to medical surgical, and any employee of the health system or the nursing home who are showing symptoms. General testing for asymptomatic individuals will continue with the state-sponsored program that we've put together. So far, so good. I think we're moving in the right direction. Those would be the 2 updates, unless you have questions of me.
Yeah, Jerry, with a rapid test, would a student or teacher, if they're sick in the morning, they could get tested? What's the turnaround in terms of minutes or hours, and then would they be able to go to work or school?
So your question raises why we need the process, right? Because you have to sort of be a gatekeeper, so you're testing the right people. So the process that Dr. Harney has led and that we introduced to the superintendents is the school nurse will educate the parent and then direct the parent to contact their primary care doctor, who would write an order for the rapid test. We will do the rapid test in the early afternoon, the assumption being most children who are sick, they would present in the morning. And so the order would come, the student would be swabbed at the doctor's office, the test kit will be sent to the lab, it will be put in the analyzer. That process is 15 minutes. And then the results of that test will be sent back to the doctor, and then we'll educate the superintendent. So that's how the process would work.
So likely the next day, assuming they're not sick.
Yeah, so assuming that symptoms clear up, they, in theory, could go to school the next day, would only miss 1 day of school. Okay, thank you, Larry.
Thank you. Brittany, CEO of the Lewis County IDA, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Sure. So I
Didn't mean to put you under the gun.
I know, you put me on the spot. You guys have a resolution in front of you all today regarding revisions to our universal tax exemption policy, regarding solar language. We were able to present at the committee meeting last month. And right now that policy is currently in draft format. We're essentially implementing a policy where we are looking to incentivize the use of marginal land versus prime agricultural lands for solar developers, because we want to ensure that we're preserving our agricultural industry here in Lewis County. So that policy is still in draft format at this point. We decided to extend the review process for another month to allow all municipalities to review that policy. The mail was a little bit slow last month, so some municipalities have yet to discuss this with their board. So we're allowing another month for feedback and input. So that policy, or that resolution, is in front of you all today. We have been receiving some great feedback from the towns, some good things to think about. So I think it's been a really great process. a great partnership with the county, with the municipalities, with the landowners, with the farmers, Real Properties Office, Planning Department, Ryan. They've all been great partners throughout this process. So we hope that we get your support today. And if you have any questions about that resolution, please let me know.
Thank you, Britt. We need 5 minutes for the public hearing, so I'm going to call a recess for 5 minutes and we'll be back in session at 5:33, I guess. Okay, the report of the Finance and Rules Committee per Rule 7.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance and Rules Committee reports that they have examined the claims presented for payment in the total amount of $1,254,501.93 and recommend that they be audited and allowed for the amounts claimed.
Need a motion? Ron, second by Jerry. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. So resolutions, if everyone agrees, we'll pass these as a slate with the exceptions of the ones that we want to pull out for discussion or that are public laws. So we need 247.
Yep, I have 247 being pulled, 248 being pulled, 255 being pulled, 259 being pulled, and 276. Were there any other ones?
Anyone have any others that they would like discussion on?
What was the last one you said?
The last one was 276. That was a late resolution.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we want to move forward with 247 first, then the slate, then the, we need 47 first or not?
No, you can do the slate and then we'll go through each
Okay.
one individually.
Need a motion to move the slate. Randy, second by Greg. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Now we'll move on to 247.
Auditing and allowing claims in the amount of $1,254,501.93.
Moved by Bill, second by Dick. Any discussion? This is a roll call.
Chartrand,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Morahan,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Kulzer,
Yes.
LaSchultz,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Hathaway,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Dahlhoff.
Yes.
The next one is 248, and it's resolution adopting and otherwise treating local law number 6-2020.
Moved by Jerry, second by Randy. Discussion. Roll call.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Morahan,
Yes.
LaSchultz,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Hathaway,
Yeah.
King,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Chartrand,
Yes.
Kulzer,
Yes.
Dahlhoff.
Yes.
The next one is 255, resolution to transfer funds, County Road Department.
Moved by Andrea, second by Ron.
No. I'd like to recuse myself on this, please.
Okay. I need a second, please. Greg. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And show Ron abstaining. Motion carries.
The next one is Resolution 259, resolution supporting the revised uniform tax exemption policy proposed by the County of Lewis Industrial Development Agency for large-scale solar projects in Lewis County.
Moved by Bill, second by Ron. Discussion. Greg.
Yes, I'm going to still make this very clear statement, is that I do not feel this is an appropriate resolution to be passed by this board, because it is again restricting the tax-paying citizen of what he can and can't do with his property. what it's going to do, yes, I know it's for the IDA's pilot program parts, but what it's going to do is the developer who's going to want to develop a certain piece of property, he's going to be restricted from that piece of property. So if he wants to do that and still use that piece of property, what he'll go back to is he'll go back to the farmer or the landowner who's paying taxes on that property and say, well, sorry, I can't give you what I was going to give you. I can only give you a third of what I was going to give you because I'm losing money because of this pilot restriction that the IDA in your county has set up. And I really feel that this is restricting our taxpayers and the ability to do what they want with their land and rent it to who they want, because a lot of these farmers are in very rough condition right now. They've been put through the ringer for the last 5 years, and now we're going to turn around and do the same thing to them, put them through the ringer. And I don't feel as an elected official that I should take and tell my tax-paying constituents what they can and can't do with their land. And the IDA is part of the problem here. They're turning around and restricting what land can be used for what purpose. And some of the prime agricultural land, because Ryan will throw up well, it could be right next to the main road. Well, some of the prime land isn't right next to the main road. What if the developer wanted to use a piece that was one parcel back? That's prime farmland. So then he's gonna, well, nope, it's prime farmland. There's a lot of farmers going under. So if you guys want to continue to let them go under, you go ahead and vote for this. That's how I look at it.
This is a recommendation, not a requirement, in my understanding.
No, it's going to be a requirement. The pilot is going to be restricted by this. How much they can get. The developer.
I disagree with you. I don't think.
You go ahead and
that's not my
disagree with
perception, and that's not the way it was presented.
And well, that's how it is.
It was a recommendation, not a requirement. If it was a requirement, I don't think any of us would vote for it. Because
well, then how come the pilot agreement is going to be varied? It's going to be varied by the particular piece of property, whether it's prime farmland, less than prime, rock. You know, there's a different pilot for each one. If that's what they showed. So if that's not a restriction, Phil, I don't know what is.
well, again, this is saying we're recommending it.
Yeah.
This particular resolution
Right.
is not passing it saying it's got to be this way. You
Right.
heard Brittany say.
Well, if we
the towns are giving input.
recommend it, most of the towns will probably just go right ahead for it. I'm
Well,
sorry.
that's their choice.
I'm sorry, but that's still us giving them a vote, telling them that we agree with this.
Okay.
We agree. And I will not
I want to
vote.
make a couple points here, just to clear up a couple issues. First off, this is an IDA policy that is what they are going to offer the developers, depending upon what land they use. All this policy does is incentivize or try to incentivize the developers to use marginal land rather than prime farmland. They will pay a lesser amount in the pilot if they use marginal land. This in no way regulates whether the project or whether in no way regulates the land use of the landowner whatsoever. The decision is still up to the landowner of whether to move forward with the project, and it does not prohibit the developer from using prime farmland or the landowner from agreeing to use that. The only thing this does is to incentivize them to try to get them to use marginal farmland rather than prime farmland. this resolution that we're looking at, the only thing this shows is the support of this board for the IDA to develop this policy. So I don't know if you want to say anything further on this. If I missed anything, Brittany, if you'd like to speak to it.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate the process that we went through to go through these revisions. We worked with our governance committee and our IDA board to come up with our draft UTEP policy. That policy was then sent out to every taxing jurisdiction that we work with, schools, towns, and the county. We are providing them with 2 months' time to provide us with comments and feedback on this policy and how we can implement smart solar growth in Lewis County so that we can ensure that in 10 years we have absolutely no agricultural economy because all of the prime lands are taken up by solar and farmers might have retired and moved on. We want to ensure that we keep the agricultural industry here and we keep it strong, but also welcome solar development in Lewis County. So at this point, we have been receiving feedback from towns, and 99% of the comments have been positive. And they've actually given us different things to think about that we haven't really thought about throughout this process. So one of my main priorities and one of our main priorities as an IDA is to do that relationship building and make sure that we're not just implementing a policy without getting the feedback from the county, from the towns, from the schools, and even the landowners. So any feedback that you guys have, that's feedback that we're going to take back to the governance committee and discuss at the end of this month.
Yeah, I'd be very interested in what feedback you're getting from the farmers themselves that own this land. Because I've had a few calls on this already, and I got to tell you, they are positive.
Okay.
The other thing is, I'd like to see what effect this would have on the pilots, because if you make them use that less than desirable land, you probably can forget about getting much money for a pilot. Because they're going to come to us and say, well, we'd love to give you money for a pilot for this thing, but we had to do it over here on this poor land that we can't do. So before I can vote for this, I've got to know what kind of impact it's going to have on our pilot program.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Joe, Dick, and Greg opposed, and Andrea.
Mr. Chairman, note my abstention too, please.
And
Due to a
Ian's
conflict.
going to abstain. So I think we are at 6-4. I vote in favor. Motion carries.
And the last resolution is 276, resolution authorizing private contract of sale and transfer of a delinquent tax foreclosed parcel.
Push the separate statement.
Any motion?
It's a new resolution.
Jerry, second by
It's a late resolution.
What's the number, Mr. Chairman?
276.
It's a late one.
That's what you
It's
got.
259.
That's a church parcel. They emailed that out. Back in the church, remember the email they sent out?
Here you go.
That's good.
No problem. Keep that one. I got it.
And then I got one. You need a motion, you said?
It's been moved by Jerry. I need a second at this point. By Ron, second by Ron. Discussion.
Why couldn't have just gone through the auction? And they could have purchased it through the auction, because it's vacant property, right?
They may not be successful with the auction. They requested to purchase it directly.
So do we do this for everyone?
We
Anybody
have
else?
done it from time to time, depending upon the request and the nature of the property.
I remember where it's a landlocked piece of property.
It could be landlocked
Yeah.
if it didn't go with another parcel.
Right.
Randy? you have
That
comments?
was what I was gonna suggest, was this was potentially to be a landlocked parcel that would never be sold.
Then why would they feel they wouldn't receive the right bid? They might get it cheaper. Like for $1. Whatever, they want to spend.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Show Phil abstaining, and I vote in favor, motion carries. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on the tax levy? If not, we will close that public hearing at this point. Do we have any other business? Do you want to read the business?
Yep. So we were wondering if we could get a motion to change the November board meeting from Tuesday, which is election day, to Monday, November 2nd at 5 o'clock p.m.
Somebody like to move that? Tom, do I have a second?
Why are we?
Because it's election day.
Makes it easy for the vote.
We've always gotten criticism, so we thought.
Well, I
really?
get credit if
Okay.
I forget.
Okay. I didn't realize we got criticized.
Do I have a second? I forgot.
I'll second it.
Gary. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Okay, just to let everyone know, the second day annual session will be held Thursday, November 19th at 5 o'clock p.m. And this is for the public hearing on the 2021 budget. And final day annual session will be scheduled for Thursday, December 17th at 10 o'clock a.m. And this is for the last meeting of the year and closing out the 2020 business. And then I know in the past we've always done the annual luncheon with department heads after that meeting. However, this year due to COVID, I'm not sure that we will do that this year. I didn't know if anybody had any other input on that.
We can leave it undetermined at this point, and if something happens, we'll have the opportunity to move forward safely. We'll do that. Anything else anyone would like to bring up? Motion to adjourn? Ron? Need a second?
Good job. That's your job.
Ian, all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.